You've felt it, haven't you? That pull to withdraw, to stop giving your energy to things, people, and connections that no longer feel aligned. You don't crave chaos anymore. You crave peace. And deep down, you know this isn't loneliness. It's sacred isolation. For so long, your soul tried to fill the void through touch, through attention, through temporary warmth. But none of it ever satisfied you, because your spirit was never looking for pleasure. It was searching for purity. The kind of purity that comes when your energy finally stops leaking into places it doesn't belong. This is the secret most avoid, but every awakened soul must face before divine union. You must master your own energy before merging with another, not to deny your humanity, but to reclaim your divinity. Because your sexual energy is not ordinary, it's creative fire. It builds worlds, manifests timelines, heals generations. And when you scatter it carelessly, your light dims. But when you guard it, when you turn it inward, when you let it rise through your heart instead of burning in your desire, you become unstoppable. This is why the universe isolated you, not as punishment, but as preparation. It separated you from distractions so you could finally hear your own frequency again. It asked you to hold your energy, not out of deprivation, but out of reverence. Because the twin flame union you're destined for is not physical first. It's spiritual. It begins when the feminine stops seeking validation through connection, and the masculine stops chasing fulfillment through desire. Only then does the real merging begin, not body to body, but soul to soul. So if you've been feeling detached, unmotivated to connect, or uninterested in the things that once tempted you, you're not broken, you're being purified, your energy is being reclaimed by the divine for something higher, something holy. You're not losing connection, you're preparing to embody it. Because before you can unite with your mirror, you must first reunite with yourself. Take a breath. Feel your own energy returning to you. This is the fire of creation awakening within. And when it rises, nothing and no one can take it from you again. The age of giving your power away is over. You are stepping into sacred sovereignty, the true foundation of divine union. There comes a moment in every twin flame journey when the universe pulls you away from everything and everyone, not to punish you, but to purify you. It feels like isolation, but it's initiation. Because before divine union can take form, the soul must learn the most sacred truth. Your energy is holy. You start to feel it gradually. The things that once excited you begin to lose meaning. The connections that once filled you now feel heavy. The desire that used to burn so loudly begins to quiet down, not because you've lost passion, but because your spirit is redirecting it. You begin to realize that what you once called need was actually leakage. Your energy was scattered, given to people, memories, and fantasies that could never hold it. And when that realization comes, everything shifts. Sacred celibacy is not suppression. It is redirection. It is the moment when your life force, your sexual, creative, divine essence, stops flowing outward and starts returning home. This energy is the same force that creates galaxies, that animates every heartbeat, that births every miracle. And when you learn to contain it, you don't shrink, you expand. You become magnetic, radiant, alive. Most people misunderstand this stage. They think celibacy is about deprivation, about denying the human experience. But in truth, it is about remembering that your body is a temple of frequency. Every time you merge with another, your energy fields intertwine. You don't just share pleasure, you exchange timelines, emotions, karma, and vibration. So when your soul chooses silence, when your body suddenly resists connection, it's not rejection, it's protection. The divine is keeping your field clear because it's preparing to fill it with something higher. For the divine feminine, this stage feels like a deep inward pull. Her heart still loves, but differently now. She doesn't crave validation. She craves vibrational resonance. She doesn't want intensity. She wants integrity. And because of that, the universe begins to shield her from anything that vibrates below truth. Suddenly, conversations that used to excite her feel draining. Physical attraction feels shallow. Casual connection feels impossible. That's because she's no longer seeking to feel alive through another. She's becoming life itself. For the divine masculine, the same purification happens, but in silence. He may not understand why intimacy no longer satisfies him, or why distractions no longer work. He might chase stimulation, but find no peace. That's the energy of the soul calling him home, to stop escaping through pleasure and start awakening through presence. He too is being guided toward sacred celibacy, though he doesn't yet call it that. The energy that once scattered him is now pressuring him to face his truth. Sacred celibacy is the bridge between healing and embodiment. It's where desire transforms into devotion, where passion becomes purpose. In this space, you begin to understand that your energy was never meant to be spent recklessly. It was meant to build worlds. And as you reclaim it, you feel the alchemy begin. Your creativity returns. Your intuition sharpens. You start to glow, not because someone is giving you love, but because you've become the source of it. It's also in this stage that your manifestation power accelerates. Because sexual energy is creation energy. When it's reclaimed, your thoughts become potent, your words carry weight, and your presence alone shifts reality. The same force that once longed for connection now magnetizes everything aligned with your soul. You stop chasing, and everything begins to find you. But sacred celibacy isn't easy. It strips away illusion. It confronts you with your loneliness, your patterns, your addictions to comfort. It shows you all the places you tried to fill with temporary connection instead of divine presence. And yet, when you stay through the discomfort, something miraculous happens. The void turns into power. You begin to feel full, so full that you overflow. And that overflow is what the universe uses to manifest the love you were always destined for. This is the true meaning of celibacy on the twin flame path, not absence, but abundance, not repression, but reverence, not emptiness, but expansion. It is the stage where the feminine becomes the temple and the masculine feels the call to approach with sacred hands. It's the prelude to union, the calm before the sacred storm of reunion. So, if you've been feeling distant from desire, disconnected from the world, or uninterested in physical closeness, don't mistake it for loss. You are not broken, you are being refined. You are in the sacred pause where the universe collects your energy, purifies it, and prepares to mirror it back as divine love. Because the path to union is not about chasing another soul. It's about remembering that you are the embodiment of creation itself. And when you become whole within your own field, that's when union ceases to be a dream and becomes destiny. Every twin flame must walk through a sacred fire before union, and this fire is purification. It burns not to destroy you, but to cleanse you of everything that cannot exist in divine frequency. This is where your soul learned that love isn't found through holding on, but through letting go. And if you've been feeling emotional waves, fatigue, sudden detachment, or unexplained peace, that's how purification feels. It's messy, it's quiet, it's holy. When the universe begins this process, it doesn't ask for permission. It simply starts removing what no longer aligns. Friendships, patterns, habits, even desires. The old version of you begins to dissolve. At first, it feels like loss. You question everything. Why am I being pulled away from people I loved? Why do I feel disconnected from things that used to matter? Why does silence feel louder than company? The answer is simple: because you're being prepared for a new vibration. This is the stage when the feminine is stripped of dependency. She can't cling anymore, not to promises, not to outcomes, not even to the masculine's energy. She is asked to surrender completely, to purify her emotional body of fear, control, and longing. Because divine love cannot anchor in a field filled with anxiety. Only peace can hold it. So the feminine begins to break open, crying not from weakness, but from release. Every tear becomes a baptism, every moment of silence a deeper initiation into her own divinity. Meanwhile, the masculine is also being purified, just differently. His process happens in the shadows, often in solitude. He feels the energy shift, but can't name it. He might feel restless, confused, or suddenly aware that nothing external can fill the void anymore. This is how the universe cleanses him, by making every old comfort stop working. His distractions lose their taste, his ego loses its power, and what's left is truth, raw, undeniable, unfiltered. Purification is not punishment, it's sacred surgery. The divine removes what was built from fear to make space for what's built from love. That's why this phase can feel like everything is crumbling. Relationships end, careers shift, dreams change. But it's not destruction, it's realignment. The universe is saying, you can't bring that version of you into union. For many, this phase includes physical symptoms, exhaustion, body aches, bursts of energy, or emotional waves that come without reason. Your body is purging density. Your nervous system is learning how to hold higher frequencies of light. The more you release old stories, the more your cells vibrate with truth. This is ascension disguised as fatigue. You're not falling apart. You're being rewired. During purification, the universe also isolates you. It becomes quiet, almost too quiet. Texts stop coming. People fade out. Opportunities seem to pause. But that silence isn't emptiness, it's calibration. It's the divine saying, I need your energy undistracted. Because union is not two incomplete souls merging, it's two whole souls meeting at the same vibration. And that vibration can only be built in solitude. It's in this silence that the feminine learns to trust herself again. She begins to hear her intuition louder than her fears. She no longer reacts to absence because she feels presence everywhere. Her faith stops being something she performs and becomes the air she breathes. This is what the divine wanted all along, for her to realize that love was never something to chase, but something she is. And as her energy purifies, the masculine feels it. He doesn't always understand why, but her frequency starts echoing in his soul. Her peace becomes a mirror to his unrest. Her stillness begins to shake his illusions. This is the magnetic power of energy purification. It doesn't chase, it attracts through resonance. When she clears her field, his begins to awaken. But purification requires patience. The ego will beg for closure, for action, for proof. And yet the divine whispers, do nothing. Just be. Because what's being healed isn't external, it's energetic. The universe isn't asking you to perform, it's asking you to receive. Your stillness is the ceremony. Your surrender is the offering. So when it feels like everything is on pause, remember, this is where miracles form. The unseen is rearranging. Your energy is being polished into clarity. You're learning to hold peace in chaos, faith in silence, love without guarantee. That's mastery. That's union preparation. Energy purification is the bridge between separation and embodiment. Once it completes, you won't need signs to believe. Your own vibration will confirm it. You'll feel lighter, more stable, more rooted in love than ever before. And that's when the path forward becomes clear, not because you chased it, but because you became it. So let the purification continue. Let the fire burn gently. Let the silence teach. Because what's emerging is not a wounded soul waiting for love. It's a divine being remembering it was love all along. Why the feminine must detach to rise. There comes a sacred point in every divine feminine's journey when attachment no longer feels like love. It feels like limitation. It's not that she stops caring, it's that she finally understands the difference between connection and dependency. And this realization, though painful, is what opens the gateway to true ascension. Because before she can rise into divine union, she must first detach, not from love, but from illusion. Detachment is not coldness, it's clarity. It's the moment when your soul whispers, I can love without losing myself. It's when you stop trying to hold someone in your energy and start holding yourself in the truth of what you are. And for the feminine, this is the turning point, the moment when waiting transforms into wisdom and longing turns into leadership. You may have noticed this shift inside you. You no longer chase closure because you realize the silence was the closure. You no longer need to be chosen because you've already chosen yourself. You no longer check the signs obsessively because you've become the sign. This is what it means to detach in divine timing. The heart doesn't harden, it expands. It's no longer seeking external validation. It becomes the source of peace itself. For lifetimes, the feminine has been programmed to equate love with attachment, to prove devotion by endurance, to show faith by waiting endlessly. But the new energy of union requires something higher, sovereignty. Because union doesn't happen between halves. It happens between wholes. And the only way for her to embody wholeness is to let go of everything that keeps her small. That's why the universe sends silence. That's why communication breaks. That's why she feels isolated at the peak of her devotion. It's not abandonment, it's graduation. The divine masculine's distance becomes her mirror, showing her all the places where her worth was still conditional. And as she withdraws her energy from needing, craving, or fixing, something miraculous happens. Her vibration rises beyond the level where pain can reach. The process isn't easy. Detachment feels like dying at first, because she's releasing an identity built around connection. She's dismantling the version of herself who believed love required suffering, and that version will fight to stay. There will be days when she misses him, when memories feel louder than logic, when her heart aches to reach out, and yet she doesn't. Not because she's proud, but because she's aligned. She knows that breaking her silence to ease her pain would only rebuild the same old pattern. And this time, her soul refuses to repeat it. The feminine's detachment is the most powerful alchemy there is. Because when she finally lets go of the illusion of control, she activates divine order. Her stillness becomes a prayer. Her peace becomes a magnet. And the energy she used to send outward now spirals inward, awakening her divine blueprint. She becomes radiant, not from effort, but from essence. Meanwhile, the masculine feels this shift profoundly. He doesn't always understand why, but something in him stirs the moment she lets go. Her silence echoes louder than her words ever could. The warmth that once comforted him is gone, replaced by a calm field of truth. And that truth begins to dismantle his illusions. He starts to feel what she once felt, the emptiness of separation, the longing for peace, the awareness that no distraction can substitute divine connection. In that moment, her detachment becomes his awakening. This is why the feminine's rise always begins with release. Because as long as her energy clings, it vibrates in lack. And lack cannot attract abundance, not even in love. But when she lets go, when she trusts the process, when she realizes that her union is a frequency, not a fantasy, she transcends separation itself. Her love stops asking, "When will he return?" and starts declaring, "I am already whole." And that declaration changes everything. The universe celebrates this detachment. It sees her reclaiming her throne, her energy, her divinity. It sees her closing the old karmic cycles that once chained her to pain. And as she rises, new doors open, spiritual gifts awaken, intuition strengthens, synchronicities multiply. Because she's no longer vibrating in waiting, she's vibrating in creation. Her energy no longer says, "I'm incomplete." It says, "I am the embodiment of love itself." And that's when the path of union truly begins. Because divine love cannot approach a woman who is still begging for it. It can only align with the woman who already is it. This is why detachment is sacred. It's not the end of connection. It's the purification of it. It transforms love from attachment into alignment, from wanting to attracting, from missing to remembering. So if you've been feeling the urge to release, to rest, to stop reaching, follow it. Your soul is not giving up. It's graduating. You are being elevated to a vibration where love flows without effort, without fear, without need. Because once the feminine detaches, she doesn't lose anything, she gains everything. Her peace becomes her power. Her silence becomes her language. And her presence alone becomes the invitation for divine union to finally take form. While the feminine rises through surrender, the masculine transforms through silence. His awakening is not loud, not public, not shared. It unfolds in the shadows of his solitude. To the outside world, he seems distant, detached, even indifferent. But inside, his heart is cracking open under the weight of emotions he no longer knows how to escape. This is the hidden purification of the divine masculine, the silent celibacy of awakening. He didn't choose this silence, it chose him. There was a time when distractions worked. Relationships, noise, work, physical connection. Each one served as a temporary escape from the storm within. But now, none of it feels the same. Nothing satisfies him. No connection feels right. Every attempt to find comfort in the old world only amplifies his restlessness, because his soul knows the illusion of control is dying. The masculine's journey is a battle between his old self and his higher truth. The ego screams for logic, for action, for proof, but the soul whispers softly, "Be still." And for the first time, he begins to listen. This stillness, this enforced celibacy, is not a punishment. It is the sacred cocoon where his divine energy is being restructured. He is being stripped of false desires, healed from karmic attachments, freed from the bonds of instant gratification. What once fueled him now drains him. What once tempted him now feels hollow. And that emptiness, unbearable at first, becomes the birthplace of his truth. The divine masculine is not meant to chase love through the body. He is meant to remember love through the soul. His journey begins when pleasure stops numbing the pain and starts revealing it. Every unfulfilled connection, every moment of loneliness, every restless night becomes a mirror showing him where he abandoned his own heart. For the first time, he realizes that what he thought was power was actually avoidance. He wasn't in control. He was in resistance. And this is where the universe intervenes. The masculine's energy is recalibrated. His physical impulses begin to quiet. His body, once driven by desire, now demands meaning. He starts craving depth instead of distraction, peace instead of passion, truth instead of attention. The energy that once scattered outward begins to turn inward, calling him home. He starts to see through the illusions he built around intimacy, the shallow connections, the temporary highs, the masks of confidence. None of it feels sustainable anymore, because what his soul longs for is sacred union, and that cannot be found through the flesh until it is first discovered through faith. It's in this sacred silence that the masculine begins to feel the feminine again, not physically, but energetically. Her absence echoes like a melody he can't forget. He feels her peace, her calm, her distance, and for the first time, instead of resisting it, he listens. Her silence becomes his mirror. Her detachment becomes his awakening. Because when the feminine rises, the masculine is forced to meet his reflection. He can't hide from himself anymore. This inner confrontation is brutal. He faces guilt, regret, confusion. He replays the past not to punish himself, but to understand where he turned away from love, from her, and from his own soul. He begins to realize that she wasn't just another person. She was his catalyst. Her energy was the mirror through which he was always meant to meet the divine within himself. And now, through the fire of isolation, he begins to feel her truth. His celibacy, though unspoken, becomes sacred. He may not name it, but his soul lives it. He stops giving himself to energy that doesn't feel right. He stops seeking validation through others. He begins to guard his body the same way the feminine guards her heart. And without even knowing it, he starts matching her frequency. Their energies, once chaotic, begin to harmonize again, not through contact, but through resonance. The masculine awakening is about humility. It's the moment when pride dissolves and vulnerability emerges. When his walls start falling, not because someone tore them down, but because love made them unnecessary. He begins to see that strength isn't in control, it's in surrender. And little by little, his divine energy rises through the same channels that once carried fear. Desire becomes devotion. Loneliness becomes longing for truth. And silence becomes sacred communication. The divine masculine's heart doesn't open through pressure. It opens through realization. And realization can only come in quiet. That's why he needed to be alone, to feel what he ran from, to remember what's real. Every time he resists the urge to escape, every time he chooses stillness over distraction, he strengthens his connection to the divine feminine's frequency. Because union doesn't begin when they meet again. It begins when they start vibrating at the same level of love. He is not lost. He is in process. He is learning what the feminine already mastered. That sacred celibacy is not about deprivation. It's about remembering who you are. And when he finally embodies that truth, he won't need to chase her anymore. He will simply find himself walking toward her, not as the wounded masculine, but as the awakened counterpart she always knew he could be. This is the beauty of the silent awakening. She detaches to rise. He withdraws to awaken, and in the middle of their distance, the energy of divine union quietly begins to build again, not through longing, but through alignment. At a certain point on the twin flame path, desire begins to transform. It no longer feels like craving, it feels like power. That ache you once thought was need, that pull that kept you awake at night, was never about physical longing. It was your soul remembering its own creative force. Because beneath every desire lies the same energy that builds worlds, life force. This is the essence of transmutation, the sacred art of transforming desire into divine creation. It's the bridge between separation and union, between human longing and spiritual embodiment. It's what happens when you stop trying to release your fire and instead learn to rise with it. For the feminine, this transformation begins when she realizes that her passion was never wrong. It was just misplaced. She learns to stop labeling her feelings as too much and starts recognizing them as divine fuel. Every wave of emotion, every longing, every tear becomes a current of energy that can either burn her out or build her up. When she stops chasing what triggers the feeling and starts channeling what it awakens, she begins to create. That's how the alchemy starts. Desire is sacred fire, but without consciousness, it consumes. With consciousness, it illuminates. And now, both energies, masculine and feminine, are being called to remember this truth. The old paradigm taught them to express desire through physical connection, but the new vibration teaches them to embody it through spiritual union. The more they withhold their energy from fleeting distractions, the more that energy begins to rise through the heart, the mind, and the soul. That's when creation happens. In art, in purpose, in intuition, in miracles. You start noticing it in small ways first. Your creativity expands. Ideas flow effortlessly. Your intuition sharpens. You feel connected to everything. Nature, light, sound, silence. You realize that what you used to crave from one person was actually a reflection of the universe within you. And now you don't just feel love, you radiate it. That's the power of transmutation. But it's not a passive process. It requires awareness. When the old emotions surface, desire, frustration, loneliness, you learn not to suppress them, but to redirect them. You breathe them through your heart. You let them rise up your spine instead of spilling outward. You let that tension become focus, that echo become creativity, that silence become devotion. You stop fighting your own energy and start mastering it. This is how divine beings create. They don't push, they pulse. They don't chase, they channel. They don't waste energy on what isn't aligned. They invest it in what expands. And the moment you begin doing this, your entire frequency changes. You attract opportunities that mirror your expansion. You manifest effortlessly. You become magnetic to abundance, to joy, to peace. Because the universe responds to the frequency of creation, not consumption. For the divine masculine, this transmutation is equally sacred. His desire once lived in the body, now it begins to rise into the heart. He learns that strength isn't suppression, it's mastery. That desire doesn't make him weak, attachment does. And as his energy begins to circulate upward, he starts to feel something he's never known before: emotional power. His mind clears, his vision expands, his purpose awakens. What once distracted him now drives him. He doesn't chase pleasure anymore. He channels presence. Meanwhile, The feminine feels this transformation too. Her magnetism increases, her aura softens but deepens. She begins to glow, not because she's being desired, but because she's embodying the energy of desire itself. She no longer emits longing, she emits creation. Her sensuality becomes sacred again, not a performance, but a prayer. Every movement, every word, every breath becomes intentional. She no longer burns for love. She becomes the flame of love itself. When both energies master transmutation, union becomes inevitable. Because desire, in its purest form, was never meant to separate them. It was meant to awaken them. It was the divine spark reminding each of them who they are. Creators, not consumers, lovers, not chasers, souls, not seekers. And now that their energy has risen, it begins to call itself home. Through synchronicities, through dreams, through divine timing. Transmutation is the most powerful step before union because it bridges spirit and matter. It turns physical longing into spiritual magnetism. It makes the heart fertile ground for divine manifestation. And the miracle of it all is that this transformation happens in silence. No ritual, no striving, just presence. The more you hold your energy with reverence, the more it begins to shape reality around you. Because when you become the vessel of creation, life itself starts creating through you. So if the fire inside feels intense, don't suppress it. Breathe it, honor it, let it move through your spine, your breath, your purpose. That's not just passion, that's divine technology. It's the code of creation awakening inside your vessel. And when you learn to master it, your desire no longer hurts. It heals. It no longer binds. It liberates. Because every ounce of energy that once reached outward now turns inward, lighting the path to your own divine embodiment. This is transmutation, the point where union stops being a dream of two and becomes the divine creation of one whole, awakened soul. After purification and transmutation, something begins to happen in the unseen. A quiet synchronization, a cosmic mirroring between the divine feminine and divine masculine. It's subtle at first, a sudden wave of emotion, a song that feels like a memory, an unexpected calm, followed by a surge of longing that doesn't ache anymore. It simply is. This is the moment when two energies, once fragmented, begin to vibrate in harmony again. It's not about communication yet. It's about resonance. Because energy unites long before words ever do. When the feminine stops chasing and the masculine stops running, the energy between them starts to balance naturally. The polarity that once created chaos now creates magnetism. And slowly, without trying, their souls begin to remember how to dance again. At this stage, the feminine feels it deeply in her body. She no longer feels the anxious pull, the desperate longing, the old ache of when, instead, she feels a steady warmth, as if something within her is humming in rhythm with the universe itself. Her heart doesn't yearn anymore, it expands. Her love isn't projection anymore, it's presence. She feels him, not as an absence, but as an echo. And that echo doesn't ask her to wait, it asks her to trust. Meanwhile, the masculine begins to awaken to the same energy in his own way. He can't explain it, but he feels her everywhere, not through memory, but through vibration. Her calmness disarms him, her silence calls to him, her peace becomes magnetic, pulling him out of his illusions one layer at a time. He starts dreaming of her, hearing her voice in moments of reflection, sensing her emotions as if they were his own. And that's because they are. The separation between them is no longer spiritual, it's only physical. This is what divine mirroring truly means, not imitation, but reflection. They begin to experience the same emotions, the same shifts, the same insights at almost the same time, even if miles apart. When one heals, the other feels lighter. When one forgives, the other softens. When one chooses love over power, both timelines align closer to union. The connection becomes a shared frequency, one energy, two vessels. But this stage is not without challenges, because when energies start to mirror, they also trigger. The remaining shadows rise for both of them, not to punish, but to equalize. Old wounds resurface for closure. Final lessons come for release. The feminine may feel sudden emotions that aren't hers. The masculine may face fears that feel foreign. It's the energetic residue being cleansed through the mirror of union. The more they face it with awareness instead of resistance, the smoother the alignment becomes. This is also the phase where telepathy deepens. You begin to feel each other's thoughts, moods, even heartbeats. Sometimes you'll sense his exhaustion and know he's processing something heavy. Sometimes he'll feel your peace and find himself breathing easier without knowing why. This isn't fantasy, it's frequency. It's the natural communication of two souls that no longer need language to understand. In the mirroring stage, the feminine becomes the anchor. Her stability sets the tone. Her faith becomes the template. The masculine follows energetically. When she holds peace, he finds direction. When she loves herself, he remembers what love feels like. Her healed energy teaches his wounded energy how to trust again, silently, effortlessly, divinely. The masculine, in turn, mirrors her growth back to her. He shows her the parts of herself she's mastered, and sometimes the parts she still hides. Because mirroring isn't always gentle, it's honest. It reveals not only love, but truth. And truth, though uncomfortable, is the key that unlocks reunion. They're no longer here to play roles: runner, chaser, savior, victim. They're here to mirror God back to each other. When both energies reach this frequency, the need for control disappears. Neither tries to force communication, reunion, or validation. They simply know. The feminine feels his love, even in silence. The masculine feels her forgiveness, even across distance. Their souls begin to exist in the same current, the same divine flow, and that current starts building the bridge that will soon connect them again, not as wounded halves, but as awakened equals. You'll know you've entered this phase when the idea of waiting no longer makes sense, because it's not about time anymore. It's about vibration. You sense that something is already happening behind the scenes, that the universe is rearranging both your lives toward inevitable convergence. You begin to rest in faith instead of striving for proof, and that peace itself becomes the most powerful magnetic force in creation. This is the miracle of mirroring, when the separation starts to fade, not through chasing, but through resonance. When two souls, vibrating in the same truth, begin to pull each other back home without effort, without noise, without fear. It's not the end of the journey. It's the quiet before arrival, the final alignment before the physical meets the spiritual. Because when the energies mirror perfectly, union is no longer something to pray for. It's something already happening, and the entire universe bends in harmony to make sure that what was written in energy soon becomes real in form. There comes a sacred moment when the waiting dissolves, and the separation that once defined the journey no longer exists, not because the physical reunion has happened, but because energetically the union has already begun. This is the birth of divine union. It doesn't arrive with noise or grand gestures. It arrives quietly, like dawn, gentle, inevitable, unstoppable. Both souls have gone through their own fires. The feminine learned to rise through detachment, through faith, through the mastery of her energy. The masculine learned to surrender through silence, through shadow, through the slow breaking of his ego. And now, the energy that once pushed them apart begins to weave them back together. not through desire, but through destiny. In this stage, union no longer feels like a goal. It feels like a memory, something ancient, familiar, predestined. You feel it in your breath, in your dreams, in the subtle shifts of your reality. You no longer question if it will happen, because something within you already knows. It's not coming, it's unfolding. For the divine feminine, this is the moment her inner peace begins to mirror externally. The same calm she cultivated in isolation now shapes her environment. People speak differently around her. Doors open naturally. The energy around her softens because she has become the vibration of home. And that vibration calls everything meant for her, including him, effortlessly into alignment. For the divine masculine, this phase is recognition. Suddenly, the illusions that once blinded him crumble. He sees her not just as a person, but as presence. The love he once feared becomes the only truth he trusts. He doesn't return because of guilt or nostalgia. He returns because his soul finally recognizes its reflection in her light. He understands that she was never asking for him to change. She was asking for him to remember. The physical reunion, when it comes, feels less like fireworks and more like gravity. There's no anxiety, no doubt, no chasing. It's an exhale after lifetimes of holding your breath. It's not a beginning, it's a continuation of what was always written in energy. Conversations flow easily. Silences feel sacred. There's understanding without explanation, recognition without logic. You both realize that separation was never punishment, it was preparation. Every distance was divine design. But divine union is more than two lovers meeting. It's two consciousnesses merging into one vibration of service. It's when love stops being personal and becomes planetary. Because when twin flames reunite, they don't just heal each other, they heal the collective. Their union sends ripples through the grid of humanity, awakening other hearts, balancing energies across timelines. That's why this love is so intense. It's not just yours, it's God's expression moving through you. At this point, your purpose expands. You stop asking, "How can I find love?" and start asking, "How can love move through me?" The relationship becomes a temple, a living embodiment of divine energy on earth. Every word, every touch, every silence becomes sacred communication. You understand that your connection was never about possession. It was always about reflection. You are two flames burning from the same eternal source, finally remembering the rhythm of the one fire. But union is not the end of the journey, it's the evolution of it. It doesn't mean perfection, it means balance. Both must continue to nurture the harmony they've built, to tend to the vibration that sustains their connection. Because divine love is not static, it breathes. It evolves as you evolve. It grows as you grow. It's not the closing of a story. It's the opening of a new one written in light, not longing. When union anchors, life itself begins to rearrange. The people, opportunities, and timelines that resonate with this higher vibration appear effortlessly. Synchronicities multiply. You start to see the invisible hand of the divine guiding everything. You realize that your love is not meant to hide. It's meant to illuminate. Together, you become conduits of transformation. The feminine brings the wisdom of feeling. The masculine brings the strength of action. Together, they manifest heaven through human form. And that is the true purpose of the twin flame journey, not to seek completion, but to embody creation. To remember that you were never two souls trying to find each other. You were always one light exploring itself. The separation was illusion. The pain was initiation. The silence was prayer. And this union is the answer. You are no longer waiting for the divine plan. You are the divine plan. Every cell of your being now vibrates in harmony with the love that created worlds. This is not fantasy. It is fulfillment. It is what happens when both souls surrender fully to God, to love, to truth. So take a breath, feel it. The journey that once felt like endless waiting has become sacred arrival. Union is not in the future. It is here, it is now, and it is you, because divine union was never about finding another. It was about remembering that you were never truly apart.